There are plenty of people who are interested in Path of Exile 2. My dad, my brother, a few of my coworkers, my wife, and of course, you. But many of them have never played Path of Exile 1. And some of them ask me this simple question, and I see it all over the internet as well. If I'm interested in Path of Exile 2, should I play Path of Exile 1? Now, of course, I am biased, and I would say the answer to that question is yes, you should, but many people are on the fence, and rightly so. So today I've laid out 4 reasons why you should play Path of Exile 1 and 4 reasons why you might not want to play Path of Exile 1 in the lead up to Path of Exile 2. And we are going to spend the next 7.5 hours talking about each of those reasons in great detail, and of course, yap away about Path of Exile 2, a game that is not even released in early access yet. All jokes aside, thank you all for your tremendous support and all the subscriptions to the channel. I really appreciate it. And if you really do like these videos, please make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the sub notification bell to make sure you receive all the Talkative Try videos. We're trying to hit 25,000 subscribers before the end of 2024. And with all of your help, we might just surge past it, which is absolutely insane. I never thought this would be possible, but a lot of people in the comments are saying, try it. You're totally just going to zoom past that goal, especially when PoE 2 actually comes out. So if you want all things Path of Exile 2, I'm talking news, I'm talking new content, builds, and opinions, lots of opinions. You can tell I talk quite a bit and I ramble. You know, that's what you get with the package. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel and you'll get all of that, I promise. Now, like I promised before, let's get to the actual 4 pros and 4 cons of why you should play Path of Exile 1 right now, before PoE 2 hits early access later this year. Pro number 1 is the most obvious one, my fellow exiles, and that is that you will know the story and world of Path of Exile before you step into Path of Exile 2. Now, the world of Rayclast is dark, grim, gritty, and it's very interesting. However, many people don't really envelop themselves in the story as they play PoE 1. So if you're purely planning on being a PoE 2 gamer and you do like immersing yourselves into the worlds of ARPGs or just regular RPGs, and you do like to read through lore or listen to dialogue or get into the minds of characters and understand their various motivations and the forces that are acting in the world, then I would heavily recommend you do a playthrough of at least the Path of Exile 1 campaign. It's pretty short, but there is a ton of dialogue buried within. It is slow, I will say, going through all that dialogue and making sure you hear it from the mouths of the NPCs and not just scrolling on through. But I do recommend you do it. And if you want a full envelope of the story, then you go into that end game, you learn about the various forces that are interacting with each other in the Atlas, such as the Shaper, such as Cirrus, the Eater of Worlds, the Searing Exarch, the Maven, all these different actors. But if you just want, the Cliff Notes version, or if you just want a quick playthrough, do the acts 1 through 10. You'll get the basis. You'll understand what type of world that you're in. You'll probably recognize some of the characters from PoE 1 reappearing in PoE 2, and you'll notice all those Easter eggs. And that's a super fun part of playing a sequel to a game. I'd go back to like Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 1. Tons of Easter eggs, tons of huge callbacks to Guild Wars 1. Obviously, anyone who's played that knows that very well. But Path of Exile 2, I will say, you don't need to play Path of Exile 1 to know the story of PoE 2. It's 20 years in the future, right? But the developers themselves have said you should be able to understand the story very easily without playing PoE 1. The best comparison that I can think of on the spot right here, I didn't write it in my notes. It's not in my notes. You can read, you can pause, you can read, you can see spoilers for ahead in the video right now. It's not in my notes. I would say it's like Path of Exile 1 might be Iron Man and Path of Exile 2 might be Captain America. They're 2 very different stories that, are technically in the same world, and they might have little Easter eggs interacting with each other, but they've said that PoE 2's story will be very standalone. So don't worry if you don't play Path of Exile 1, but I think as an RPG, that's the number 1 pro to actually playing through Path of Exile 1 before PoE 2 hits. Pro number 2 is pretty basic. It's the fact that you'll just understand the general passive system of Path of Exile, because that's one thing that's really not changing between Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2 fundamentally. In Path of Exile 1, you have this massive sprawling skill tree. I'll put it up on the actual screen right now. all passives right here. And then in Path of Exile 2, you're going to have the same thing. The nodes will be different, the look will be different, but generally it's the same sort of thing. You can path anywhere you want as any class in the game and make a wildly different and crazy build. In addition, there's a secondary passive system in both Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2, and those are ascendancy classes. These are passives that further embolden your character and change them and differentiate them from other character classes. This is why your class really does matter. Of course, it does matter for the starting place on the core passive skill tree, but it also matters what ascendancies you get access to. In Path of Exile 1, the Ranger gets the Pathfinder, the Raider, and the Deadeye, okay? In Path of Exile 2, we don't know what they're going to get, but they're going to be 3 unique identities, and all 12 classes in PoE 2 are going to get this, and if you get your hands dirty with it in Path of Exile 1, you'll be ready for that when you start playing through Path of Exile 2, and I would recommend that. Because even though they've said there's going to be more changes to make sure the passive skill tree allows you to specialize your character more, as opposed to everybody going for all the life nodes on the tree or something like that, you're still going to get a grasp on this type of crazy game that PoE is. Because a lot of people usually bounce from Path of Exile 1 when they see that skill tree. Just embrace it. Try it out, and it will prepare you for what you're going to experience in Path of Exile 2. Pro number 3 for playing Path of Exile 1 right now would be you get an understanding of how the items are going to work as well, because that's another W in Path of Exile 1, the general item system. Not the drops of the items or how they drop in terms of tiers or anything, but just how modifiers work, how the tiering of the modifiers on the items work, how uniques are designed, and all that stuff. Just general gearing of your character. And I say this because there are a lot of people in my comments who obviously will be first-time ARPG players with Path of Exile 2. They're interested in it, the developers seem passionate, the game looks beautiful, the systems seem so smooth, they want to try it out. And really, Path of Exile 1's item system is unlike any other game out there. Of course, all your games have your basic gear that you equip and you find, just like in Diablo, you do that same thing. Last Epoch, you do as well. But in Path of Exile, the items are different in the way that you craft them with your currency orbs and the way that you upgrade them and all that. Okay, it feels substantially different. And this is coming from someone who's played all those ARPGs, okay? One of the reasons I bounced from D4 is because the item system just didn't seem too compelling to me. I just didn't have fun when I was upgrading my items. There wasn't a big chase for me. In Path of Exile 1, I do still experience that. I'm one of those weirdos, even though I play the game a ton, and I get all the challenges, every league, and I max out characters, I still like in the campaign when I get a cool rare drop, right? I'm not someone who hides all the items on the ground day 2 or 3. It takes me quite a bit longer than that. So I do enjoy that journey still. And it seems like Path of Exile 2 is only going to build on top of that. So if you'd like a firm grasp on how that's going to function in PoE 2, try out Path of Exile 1. And the final pro that we have here, it's a short one. No yapping here. It's going to help you pass the time. We have about 5 months, we think, until the early access of Path of Exile 2 begins. What are you going to do until then? You're going to play the latest Elden Ring DLC, maybe the next Guild Wars 2 expansion. Maybe you're going to play the next World of Warcraft expansion. There are other games out there. I'm not that well versed in the realm of gaming, but come on, just try out Path of Exile 1. There's going to be a league that launches at the end of July. Hop in there. Oh, but that's a good point. For those people who've never played Path of Exile 1, it's a league-based game. There's seasons, right? You think, oh, your character's gone after the season ends. Nope. It gets transferred to a standard realm wherein you can keep playing it after that season has ended. It just won't be in the next season or league, and you won't be able to experience the new content that is added specifically for that league. So don't worry, if you're playing through for the story, like in Pro number 1, your character's not gone. It's just transferred to the standard realm. But that's a lot of pros, okay? That was a lot of talk about pros. Let's move on over to the 4 cons that I have for all of you. Con number 1, everybody watching, is that Exile 2 is way different than Path of Exile 1. Okay, I know it's a sequel, and it's crazy that I'm saying this because I pitched for so long how they were going to be similar, and they are similar in plenty of ways, as I outlined in the pros. But as someone who's now played it twice, okay, through Act 1 into Act 2, they're so different. They're so much more. Path of Exile 2 is an active game. You're reacting to many different things that are occurring and you're using different abilities. And you don't have all these items clogging the ground, right? Almost every item that you find really matters. And it's also such a new, fresh experience. The graphics are better, the animations are smoother, the dialogue is great, your character speaks as you're moving through the world. It's not just when you enter an area, it's when you interact with a boss or an object or find something, kill something, whatever. It's a step up compared to Path of Exile 1 in almost every regard, at least in the campaign. Can't talk about endgame yet, okay? Or build diversity, although we've seen very good things thus far. So, con number 1 is you might be looking for something in PoE 1 that you're only going to find in Path of Exile 2. Okay? And that leads me into the second con for playing PoE 1 first. If you play PoE 1 and it pushes you off, you bounce really fast, you might be left with a sour taste in your mouth when it comes to actually trying out PoE 2. You know, with Diablo 3, okay, I've played Diablo 3, I bounced from D3, I didn't really want to try out D4. I had such a sour taste in my mouth about D3. I really didn't enjoy it. That when D4 came out, it really took a lot of effort in me to actually go and try it out. And if I wasn't covering these sort of games on this channel, I probably wouldn't have tried out Diablo 4, okay? And that same sort of scenario could take place with you. You might try PoE 1, it's janky, it's outdated, the skill systems are too convoluted and you have to refer to all these external documents to really progress, all that stuff. And that's not really going to be the case with PoE 2, or at least that's what we've seen. But since that's what you tasted when you sampled Path of Exile 1, well, that's going to be your impression of Path of Exile 2, even if it might not be accurate. So that's con number 2, being straight with you all. And then number 3, here we go. Next con. It's the curse of comparisons, okay? And this is something that is plaguing the Path of Exile 1 community even right now, okay? Because these people have been playing Path of Exile 1 for months, years, a decade plus. And all they can do when they look at Path of Exile 2 is compare it to Path of Exile 1. That's it. Oh, Path of Exile 2 doesn't seem as complex as PoE 1. Oh, Path of Exile 2 will never live up to the hype of Path of Exile 1. It'll never have builds as complex, an endgame as rich and diverse. Oh, Path of Exile 2 is for casual players, while Path of Exile 1 will only be for us hardcore players. All this stuff is going on, everybody, okay? And if you do play Path of Exile 1, even if it's just for a shorter amount of time, to some extent, you'll find yourself comparing it to Path of Exile 2 while playing it. And that's a curse, right? Because you'll constantly be looking at things and being like, oh, well, you know, interesting. In Path of Exile 1, it wasn't like this. I wonder what I prefer. Oh. And it might just a little bit change your experience. And of course, some critique is warranted. Really. Lots of people are going to be comparing these two games quite a bit. They were originally supposed to be the same game. I, for one, can't wait for Path of Exile 2 to be compared to PoE 1 in the realm of melee, and people saying, well, why can't we just do this in Path of Exile 1? As they have many times over, and many times over, Jonathan has explained, this is almost the reason why they started making Path of Exile 2, to fix melee. It's going to be wild, but I just want to warn you, you might be comparing the two all the time if you end up playing PoE 1. That's another con right there. And then con number 4, it's a bit of a joke, but it's a saying in the Path of Exile 1 community. I think it was originated by Chris Wilson, the former game director on Path of Exile 1 and one of the 3 co-founders of Grinding Gear Games. And he said, if you reach maps, they have your soul. They being Grinding Gear Games. So you could end up playing Path of Exile 1 just as, you know, a taster leading to Path of Exile 2. And then you might find yourself absolutely addicted, and you might just completely envelop and immerse yourself in all things PoE 1. You might end up blasting the next league. You might even be playing during the early access of PoE 2, and you just might become entranced with the gameplay loop that is in Path of Exile 1. A lot of people enjoy, single button builds or the ability to just clear your screen with one little click or survive absolutely anything, juice up your maps to levels wherein the loot on the screen lags out the server and your computer and everything just dies, including your PC. That might not be possible with Path of Exile 2. Maybe. We don't know yet, but we think it won't be. But if that's your jam, oh my goodness, then a con will absolutely be that Path of Exile 1 will steal your soul away and all your time away. So you have been warned. So now is the best time if you are looking to play Path of Exile 2 and you'd like to dip your toes into Path of Exile 1 in the lead up. There are the pros, there are the cons. Jump in right now if you'd like to, or you can wait until the next league launch, which is going to be about the end of July. We'll welcome you in with open arms. We have a big Discord community, the Talkative Tri community. It's called the Unhinged Exile Society. We have a guild in game as well. I welcome all of you to join us, okay? We are very positive there, and we do talk a lot. So be warned, okay? All right? And speaking of talking a lot, if you'd like to see more Path of Exile 2 content, news, anything and everything related to it, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that sub notification bell, and watch this video of Hog and I discussing all things Path of Exile 2, Diablo 4 the Vessel of Hatred, and how the two will match up when they both release later this year. Anyways, that's all for this video. Talkura, Exiles.